The Sale of Goods Act 1930 is an important legislation as far as commercial transactions go, buying and selling of movable goods go. And in this video, we'll be exploring the introduction to this act and definition of some key terms. So the Sale of Goods Act 1930 is the law that governs the sale of goods in all parts of India. Prior to the scrapping of Article 370, the Sale of Goods Act was not applicable in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, but after the scrapping of Article 370, the Act along with certain other central legislations is applicable there as well. So let's define sale. According to Section 4 of the Sale of Goods Act 1930, a contract of sale of goods is a contract whereby the seller transfers or agrees to transfer the property and goods to the buyer for a price. There may be a contract of sale between one part owner and another. So what we need to understand from this definition very briefly is that sale includes a contract of sale as well as an agreement to sell. We'll be talking about that in another video, what is the difference between sale and agreement to sell. But by and large, let's just say that one is an executed contract and the other is an executory contract which will take place in future. And here we're talking about a buyer and seller who will be two parties to the contract of sale. A part owner, that means if half of the goods are owned by A and B, then A may purchase the goods from B and become the sole owner of those goods. So a part owner and another person who owns the items with him jointly can have a transaction of sale taking place between them. And what does this transaction of sale cover? It basically ensures the transfer of property and goods, that is not just possession but ownership of goods, to the buyer for a price. Now price is money consideration. Now this is very important in sale, that if you exchange goods for goods and there is no money involved in addition to the goods which are being exchanged, and that will not be a contract of sale. We will be covering sale and the difference between sale and other transactions like barter and all in a separate video. So for now it would suffice to say that sale is a contract whereby the seller agrees to transfer property and goods to the buyer for a price. Now this gives us certain essential features of the contract of sale also. Now who's a buyer? According to Section 2(1) of the Act, a buyer is someone who buys or has agreed to buy goods. That means either the buyer is somebody who has already paid the price, or he says that he will pay the price in future, or he pays some amount now and the remaining later. So all these different folks can be buyers. According to Section 2(13), a seller is someone who sells or has agreed to sell goods. That means basically it's somebody who either you just go to a vendor, vegetable vendor, and you buy vegetables from him. So he has sold the goods to you, or you place an order online and ask him to deliver them tomorrow and he agrees to do that for you. So a seller is someone who is a party to either a contract of sale or an agreement to sell. Now, what do we mean by goods? Because goods are what is being exchanged between a seller and a buyer for a price. Now, goods according to Section 2(7), every kind of movable property other than actionable claims and money, and includes stock and shares, growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming a part of the land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale will be considered goods. Now, very briefly, let us understand that by goods under the contract of sale, we are referring to movable goods, all movable goods, but we are not talking about money and actionable claims. So anything which is movable, which could include a stock of goods, it could include shares, crops, anything which is attached to the land which you require to sever from the land, or say even pluck fruit of a tree, then those items can be considered as goods. So let us just consider now the classification of goods. We need to understand which are the different types of goods, and this is an important question from the point of view of examination. This question often comes in the exam on which are the different types of goods. So broadly you have three types of goods. You have existing goods, future goods, and contingent goods. Existing goods, as the name itself suggests, are already in existence. They have been produced, they are made, they are ready when you enter into the contract of sale or an agreement to sell. Future goods will be produced in future, or they are a work in progress at the time of entering into a contract of sale or an agreement to sell. And contingent goods are goods which depend on the happening of a certain event in order that that particular event or activity takes place. Now, existing goods, as I mentioned, they are already present, they are in existence at the time of formation of the contract. So this is like going to the market to buy vegetables, or walking into a departmental store to buy anything which is ready and which is a manufactured item, or you even walk into a showroom and you decide that I'm going to buy this bike or this car today. It is already in existence. So those are existing goods. And there's a further classification of existing goods which we will discuss. Now, future goods are those which have not yet been produced, or they are a work in progress when you enter into the contract of sale. So it is like mostly people do this. They buy their wedding gown or wedding trousseau, they order it, they get their garments made for themselves, or you buy fabric and you give a suit for tailoring. Then that is a future finished product which is going to be delivered to you, or you get custom made shoes done for you, or you've decided that you want certain types of arrangement of bouquets, or you want a cake delivered 1 month later for somebody's birthday. Then these would be examples of future goods. That is, they are not yet ready, but they will be ready at some point in future. Now, contingent goods are basically a subtype of future goods. That means in contingent goods, the sale depends on the happening of a certain event. So it could be something like, you are a company which is engaged in the manufacture of some food processed items, like say tomato sauce or juice, and you have entered into a contract to buy the tomatoes or apples from a certain farmer. Now you will be able to buy those only when the crop is good and the produce is according to what are your requirements and needs, which you would be able to determine only in future when the weather conditions are good enough and everything goes well and the items are produced as per your requirements. Or you say that you are going to buy you've ordered something which is coming by ship, provided that the ship reaches the shores safely, it is not lost at sea, it doesn't sink, it is not taken by pirates, then you provided all these things don't happen, then you would be able to actually buy those goods. So those are contingent goods which depend on the happening of a certain event in future. Now, as I mentioned, we'll be discussing a little bit about existing goods. What are the subtypes of these goods? Now, you can have specific goods. Now, specific goods are those which are identified and agreed upon when the contract of sale is formed. Now, this is as simple as all of us shop online. We buy items on Amazon, Flipkart, or any e-commerce platform, or we buy something from a website, or we purchase something which we see in a catalog. Then we have identified and been able to say that I want this particular item or this particular product, and therefore that's very specific. Even when you buy online, you'll find specifications, detailed specifications of length, width, all these weight, all these things are very clear, and that is why those goods are specific goods. Now, ascertained goods, they are specific goods which are selected from a larger set of specific goods. Let's just say something like, you want to buy 1 kilo apples from a vendor who has about 5 kilos apples on his cart. And you pick up and you choose the items and put them on a weighing scale. So when you do that, it is ascertained goods. You are choosing, you are defining, though it's not very easy to define which item or how different would one apple be from another, but you see the color, size, you feel it, the firmness of it, and then you decide. So those are ascertained goods. Now, unascertained goods are goods that have not been specifically identified, but they are left to somebody else to be selected from a larger group. So let's take the same example that you want to buy a kilo of apples from a vendor who has 5 kilos apples, but what you do is you just go there, stop the car near his handcart, and you tell the vendor that you want 1 kg apples. Bhaiya 1 kilo apple de do. And the vendor picks them out and he weighs them and he gives them to you. So those are unascertained goods. That is where you don't have any problem with whatever is being picked out and given to you, where you're okay with it. Now, delivery of goods is another important aspect of the contract of sale, because delivery transfers possession and ownership to the buyer. So basically, delivery is nothing but voluntary transfer of possession from one person to another. So you order a pizza and the pizza delivery person brings it and gives it to you at home. That's doorstep delivery, okay? Or you order something online and it is delivered to your doorstep for you, whether it is from a kirana shop, whether it is from an e-commerce site. So basically they're just transferring possession to you. Now you can have types of delivery. That is, you can have actual delivery, that is where goods are physically given into the possession of the buyer. So the delivery is an actual delivery, where as I said that you order pizza and the pizza delivery guy comes and gives it to you, or the e-commerce logistics service provider comes and gives the items to you at your doorstep. You receive what you have ordered in your hands. That is actual delivery. Now, how do you come to know that you are the owner of a particular set of goods? Now, for that you would need a document of title, which we commonly know as a receipt. when we buy something from a shop, we get a bill or a receipt. And so any document, which could be a bill of lading, dock warrant, warehouse keeper certificate, railway receipt, multimodal transport document, warrant or order for the delivery of goods, and any other document, is used in the ordinary course of business as proof of the possession or control of goods. So, by virtue of the document of title, what happens is it is evidence that you are the owner and that you need to be compensated in case something adverse happens or there is a loss that is incurred on account of mishandling or loss of those goods. Just as you have actual delivery, you have something known as constructive delivery. That is where it's something as simple as you ask a friend to pick up a parcel, which has to be delivered to you, or some items for you, and you collect it from that person, or your friend accepts the delivery of something from an e-commerce site at his address. He holds it for you until you can take them. That is constructive delivery. It's as good as being delivered to you, even though it is being delivered to someone else on your behalf. Symbolic delivery basically uses a token of transfer of something, like handing over keys of a warehouse full of goods to a buyer instead of giving him the goods. That is symbolic delivery. Like this happens when you buy a car, you are given the key to the car, and that is symbolic delivery. So price is the money consideration for the goods which are being exchanged between the buyer and seller. So the monetary value of the goods that are being exchanged, that is price. And with this, we come to the end of this video on an introduction to the Sale of Goods Act and key definitions and terms of the Act. Thank you for listening. This is Dr. Mariam Naruna.